Elena Rodriguez looked at herself in the mirror one more time. She fixed her dark hair and smoothed down her dress. At 26 years old, she knew what people said about her. She was not like her three sisters. Maria, Carmen, and Rosa were all thin and pretty. They had married young men from good families in their village. Elena was different. She was bigger than her sisters. Much bigger, but Elena had other good things about her. She was smart. She was kind to everyone she met. She worked hard in her family's bakery every day. The bakery was the best one in their small Spanish village. Elena made the most beautiful cakes and the softest bread. People came from other towns just to buy her food. She was good with money too. The bakery made more money now than it ever had before. Still, people talked. They always talked about Elena. In the market, women would whisper when she walked by. "Poor Elena," they would say. "Such a shame. She would be so pretty if she was not so fat." The words hurt Elena every time she heard them. She tried not to listen, but it was hard. Elena's father, Roberto, was a rich man. He owned the bakery and 2 other shops in town. He also had land outside the village where he grew olives. Roberto loved all his daughters, but he worried about Elena the most. Her 3 sisters had found husbands easily, but Elena was still not married. Roberto thought about this problem every day. One morning, Roberto got a letter. It was from his old friend Pierre Delacroix. Pierre lived in France. He owned a big vineyard there. His family made wine and sold it to people all over Europe. Pierre had a son named Marcus. Marcus was 30 years old and not married yet. Pierre wrote that Marcus needed a wife. He wanted to join their families together in business too. Roberto read the letter 3 times. This could be the answer to his worries about Elena. The Delacroix family was very rich and respected. If Elena married Marcus, she would have a good life. She would never have to worry about money. Roberto decided to write back to Pierre right away. Elena was in the bakery when her father came to find her. She was making bread for the next day. Her hands were covered in flour. She looked up when she heard his footsteps. "Elena, my daughter," Roberto said. "I have something important to tell you." Elena wiped her hands on her apron. She could tell from her father's voice that this was serious. "What is it, Papa?" Roberto sat down on a chair near the big table where Elena worked. "I have found you a husband," he said quietly. Elena felt her heart stop for a moment. Then it started beating very fast. "A husband? Who?" "His name is Marcus Delacroix. He is from France. His family owns a vineyard. They make wine." Roberto watched Elena's face carefully. "He is a good man from a good family. You would live well with him." Elena sat down too. Her legs felt weak. Does he know about me? What I look like?" Roberto looked uncomfortable. "I sent him a picture. An old one from your sister Carmen's wedding. You looked very nice in it." Elena remembered that picture. She had been standing behind Carmen. You could not see much of her body in the photo, just her face and shoulders. She felt sick to her stomach. "Papa, what if he does not like me when he sees me?" "He will like you," Roberto said, but he did not sound sure. "You are a good woman, Elena. Kind and smart and hardworking. Any man would be lucky to have you." But Elena knew what her father was really thinking. This marriage was about business. The Delacroix family wanted to connect with Roberto's family. They wanted to work together. Marcus probably did not care what Elena looked like. He just needed a wife and she needed a husband. It was that simple. 2 weeks later, Marcus came to visit. Elena was so nervous she could not eat for 2 days before he arrived. She bought a new dress, a blue one that she thought made her look a little thinner. She spent hours fixing her hair and practicing what she would say to him. When Marcus knocked on their door, Elena hid in the kitchen. She listened as her father welcomed him inside. Marcus had a deep voice with a French accent. He sounded polite but formal. Elena took a deep breath and walked into the living room. Marcus was tall with dark hair and serious brown eyes. He was handsome, Elena thought. Much more handsome than she had expected. When he saw her, his face did not change. He did not smile, but he did not look unhappy either. He just looked nothing. "Elena," Roberto said. "This is Marcus Delacroix." "Marcus, this is my daughter Elena." Marcus stepped forward and took Elena's hand. He kissed it lightly as was proper. "It is nice to meet you, Elena," he said. "Nice to meet you too," Elena said. Her voice was very quiet. They sat together in the living room. Roberto and Marcus talked about business, about the vineyard and the bakery. about how their families could work together. Elena sat quietly and listened. Sometimes Marcus would ask her a question about the bakery or about her life in the village. She answered, but she could tell he was just being polite. Marcus stayed for 3 days. Each day, Elena tried to talk to him more. She showed him around the village. She took him to the bakery and let him taste her best cakes. She told him about the books she liked to read and the places she wanted to visit someday. Marcus listened to everything she said. He was always polite. He never said anything mean about her size or her looks. But he never said anything nice either. He seemed to think of her as a business partner, not as a woman he might love. On his last day, Marcus asked Elena to marry him. They were sitting in her father's garden. The sun was setting and the air smelled like the orange trees that grew there. "Elena," Marcus said, "I think we could have a good marriage. Our families work well together. You seem like a sensible woman." Sensible. That was the word he used. Not beautiful. Not wonderful. Sensible. "I would like to marry you," Marcus continued. "If you agree, we can have the wedding next month." Elena looked at his serious face. She thought about staying in the village forever, listening to people whisper about the fat girl who never got married. She thought about working in the bakery until she was old, watching her sisters with their husbands and children. "Yes," she said, "I will marry you." Marcus nodded like he was agreeing to buy some wine or sell some olives. "Good. I will make the arrangements." That night, Elena lay in her bed and wondered what she had done. She was going to marry a man who thought she was sensible, a man who looked at her like she was a problem to be solved, not a woman to be loved. But maybe that was enough. Maybe sensible was all she could hope for. The morning of Elena's wedding day was sunny and warm. She woke up early before the sun came up. Her stomach felt sick with worry. Today was the day she would marry Marcus Delacroix. Today was the day her whole life would change. Elena's 3 sisters came to help her get ready. They brought flowers for her hair and makeup for her face. They tried to be happy and excited, but Elena could see the worry in their eyes too. "You look beautiful, Elena," said Maria, the oldest sister, but her voice did not sound like she meant it. Elena's wedding dress had belonged to her grandmother. It was old and made of white lace. Her mother had changed it to fit Elena's bigger body, but it still did not look right. The dress was too tight in some places and too loose in others. Elena looked at herself in the mirror and wanted to cry. "Maybe we should put a shawl over your shoulders," said Carmen. "To cover," Elena knew, to cover how fat she looked, to hide her big arms and her wide back. She nodded and let Carmen put a white shawl around her shoulders. Rosa, the youngest sister, was doing Elena's hair. "The church will be full of people today," she said. Marcus invited many people from France. Important business people. Elena's hands started to shake. She had not thought about all the people who would be watching her. She had only thought about Marcus and her family. But now she realized that strangers would be there too. Rich, important people from France who had never seen her before. "What if they laugh at me?" Elena asked quietly. "They will not laugh," said Maria. But she did not look at Elena when she said it. At the church, people were already arriving. Elena could see them from the window of the small room where she was waiting. The French people were easy to spot. They wore expensive clothes and talked in loud voices. They looked like they came from a different world than Elena's small village. Elena heard voices outside her door. 2 women were talking in French, but Elena understood a little bit because she had studied the language in school. "Have you seen the bride yet?" one woman asked. "No, but I heard she is very large," the other woman answered. "Poor Marcus. He is only doing this for business, you know. Such a shame. He could have married anyone. Remember that beautiful girl Celeste? She was perfect for him." Elena's face got hot with shame. She pressed her ear closer to the door. "Well, at least she has money," the first woman said, "and Marcus needs this business deal to expand the vineyard. Sometimes we must make sacrifices." Sacrifices. That was what Elena was, a sacrifice that Marcus was making for his business. Elena's father knocked on the door. "Elena, it is time," he said. Elena looked at herself one more time in the small mirror. The white dress made her look even bigger than usual. Her face was red and sweaty from nerves. She did not look like a beautiful bride. She looked like exactly what she was, a fat girl pretending to be something she was not. The church was packed with people. Elena could hear them talking and laughing before she even walked inside. When the music started and the big doors opened, everyone turned to look at her. Elena took her father's arm and started walking down the long aisle. With each step she could hear the whispers getting louder. "Oh my," someone said in Spanish. "She is much bigger than I expected." "Poor thing," said another voice. "She looks so nervous." "I wonder what the French people think of this," whispered an old woman from the village. Elena tried to keep her eyes on Marcus, who was standing at the front of the church. He was wearing a black suit and looked very handsome, but his face showed no emotion at all. He looked like he was waiting for a business meeting to start, not watching his bride walk toward him. As Elena got closer to the front, she could hear the French guests talking among themselves. They were not trying to be quiet anymore. "Mon Dieu," said a man with a gray beard. "She is enormous." "Marcus looks like he wants to run away," laughed a woman in a red hat. "This is what happens when you mix business with marriage," said another man. "At least the vineyard will benefit." Elena's face burned with embarrassment. Her legs felt like they might not hold her up. She wanted to turn around and run out of the church. She wanted to hide somewhere and never come out. Roberto, Elena's father, could hear the comments too. His grip on Elena's arm got tighter. "Hold your head up, daughter," he whispered. "You are a Rodriguez. We do not let others make us feel small." But Elena did feel small, smaller than she had ever felt in her life. When they finally reached the front of the church, Roberto kissed Elena's cheek and put her hand in Marcus's hand. Marcus's hand was cold and dry. He looked at Elena for just a moment, then looked straight ahead at the priest. The priest began the wedding ceremony. He talked about love and commitment and building a life together. But Elena could still hear people whispering behind her. "Look how she is sweating," someone said. "That dress does not fit her at all," said another voice. "I heard she works in a bakery." "That explains the weight," laughed someone else. Elena felt tears starting to come to her eyes. She tried to listen to the priest, but all she could hear were the cruel words of the wedding guests. Then she heard Marcus's business partner, a loud man named Claude, talking to the person next to him. He was not even trying to whisper. "Well, Marcus is really taking one for the team today," Claude said. "I hope her father's money is worth it." "Shh," said the person next to him. "They will hear you. So what?" Claude said, even louder now. "Everyone is thinking the same thing. Look at her. And look at him. He can barely stand to touch her hand." Elena felt like she might faint. The whole church could hear Claude talking. She looked at Marcus to see if he would say something to defend her. But Marcus just stood there staring straight ahead like he had not heard anything. The priest asked Marcus to repeat his wedding vows. Marcus spoke in a flat, emotionless voice. "I, Marcus, take you, Elena, to be my wife. For better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health." The words sounded like he was reading from a business contract. There was no feeling in his voice at all. When it was Elena's turn to say her vows, her voice was so quiet that people in the back of the church could not hear her. She was shaking so hard that she could barely get the words out. "I, Elena, take you, Marcus, to be my husband," she whispered. "Louder," someone called out from the back. "We cannot hear the bride?" Elena tried to speak louder, but her voice cracked. She felt like everyone was staring at her, judging her, laughing at her. Claude made another loud comment. "At least the reception will have good food. She should know something about that." Several people laughed. Elena saw Marcus's jaw get tight, but he still said nothing. The priest was getting ready to pronounce them husband and wife when Claude made his worst comment yet. "Poor Marcus," he said, loud enough for half the church to hear. "He is really taking one for the team today. I hope the business deal is worth marrying that." That was when something changed. Elena felt it before she saw it. Marcus's whole body went stiff next to her. His hand, which had been holding hers loosely, suddenly gripped her fingers tight. Elena looked up at Marcus's face and saw something she had never seen before. His brown eyes were not cold and emotionless anymore. They were angry, very angry. Marcus turned around to face the church full of people. His face was red and his hands were shaking. Elena had never seen him show any strong emotion before, but now he looked like he might explode. The church got very quiet. Everyone could see that something was about to happen. Even Claude stopped talking and looked worried. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, and Elena knew that whatever happened next would change everything. Marcus turned to face the church full of people. His face was red with anger. Elena had never seen him look like this before. For the past month, he had been quiet and polite. Now he looked like a different person completely. "Enough!" Marcus shouted. His voice was so loud that it echoed off the church walls. Everyone stopped talking immediately. Claude, the man who had been making the cruel comments, looked shocked. His mouth fell open and he took a step back. Marcus stepped forward, still holding Elena's hand tightly. "She's mine now, back off," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the church. Elena felt her heart stop. She could not believe what she was hearing. Marcus was defending her. Marcus, who had barely looked at her for a month, was standing up for her in front of all these people. But Marcus was not done. He looked around the church at all the faces staring at him. French guests, Spanish villagers, business partners. Everyone was completely silent. "How dare you?" Marcus said, his voice shaking with emotion. "How dare any of you talk about my wife that way?" Elena felt tears coming to her eyes, but they were different tears now. Not tears of shame, but tears of surprise and something else she could not name. Marcus pointed at Claude. "You think this is funny? You think my marriage is some kind of joke for your entertainment?" Claude's face turned white. "Marcus, I did not mean—" "You did not mean what?" Marcus demanded. "You did not mean to insult the woman I am marrying. You did not mean to disrespect her in God's house on her wedding day?" Marcus turned to look at the rest of the guests. "All of you, talking and whispering and laughing. You think I cannot hear you? You think Elena cannot hear you?" Elena squeezed Marcus's hand. She wanted to tell him to stop, that it was okay, that she was used to people talking about her, but no words came out of her mouth. "Let me tell you something about Elena Rodriguez," Marcus said, his voice getting stronger. "She is the most remarkable woman I have ever met." Elena looked up at Marcus in shock. Remarkable? He thought she was remarkable? "You see a woman who does not look like your idea of beauty," Marcus continued. "I see a woman who built a successful business with her own hands. You see someone to laugh at. I see someone who treats every person she meets with kindness and respect." The church was so quiet that Elena could hear her own heartbeat. "You want to know why I'm marrying Elena?" Marcus asked. "Not for business. Not for money. Not because I have to. I am marrying her because she is intelligent and funny and good. Because she makes the best food I have ever tasted. Because she knows how to turn a small bakery into something amazing." Elena felt like she was in a dream. This could not be real. Marcus could not be saying these things about her. "I have traveled all over Europe," Marcus said. "I have met many women. Rich women, beautiful women, educated women. But I have never met anyone like Elena." He turned to look at Elena directly. His brown eyes were soft now, not angry anymore. "You think I am doing her a favor by marrying her? You are wrong. She is doing me a favor. She could have any man she wanted." Elena's mouth fell open. "Marcus," she whispered. Marcus smiled at her. It was the first real smile she had seen from him since they met. "It is true, Elena. I have been afraid to tell you, but it is true." He turned back to the guests. "You want to know something else? I asked my father to arrange this marriage. Elena did not know that. Her father thinks it was my father's idea, but it was mine." Elena stared at Marcus. "What? I saw you in your bakery 6 months ago," Marcus said, still looking at the church full of people. "I was visiting the village on business. I went into your bakery to buy bread, and I watched you with your customers. You were so patient with an old woman who could not decide what to buy. You gave free cookies to children whose parents had no money. You remembered everyone's names." Elena felt dizzy. Marcus had been watching her 6 months ago, but that was long before their fathers arranged the marriage. "I went back to your bakery 5 more times," Marcus continued. "I told myself it was because the bread was good. But really, I wanted to see you again. I wanted to watch you work and laugh and be kind to people." Elena could not believe what she was hearing. All those times Marcus had come to the bakery, she thought he was there for business meetings with her father. She never knew he was watching her. "I am a shy man," Marcus said. "I am not good with words or romance. I did not know how to talk to you properly. So I asked my father to write to your father. I thought if our families arranged the marriage, Elena might give me a chance." Claude tried to speak again. "Marcus, I think you are being emotional. Maybe we should—" "Shut up, Claude," Marcus said without even looking at him. "I am not emotional. I am telling the truth. The truth I should have told Elena weeks ago." Marcus took both of Elena's hands in his. Elena, I know I have been cold and formal with you. I know I acted like this marriage was just business. But that was because I was scared. Scared? Elena asked. Her voice was still very quiet. Scared that you would not like me, Marcus said. Scared that you would think I was boring. I have spent my whole life working and thinking about business. I do not know how to court a woman properly. I do not know how to be romantic. Elena felt her heart beating faster. You were scared of me? Marcus laughed, but it was not a mean laugh. Terrified. You are so confident and capable. You run a business better than most men I know. You are smart and funny and talented. What could I offer someone like you? Elena looked around the church. Everyone was staring at them, but she did not care anymore. You really think all those things about me? I think you are perfect, Marcus said simply. Claude made a noise like he was going to speak again. Marcus turned to him with fire in his eyes. Claude, if you say one more word about my wife, you are no longer welcome in my vineyard or my home. That goes for anyone else who wants to disrespect Elena. You can leave now. Claude looked around the church for support, but no one would meet his eyes. Slowly, he stood up and walked out of the church. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Marcus looked at the other French guests. Anyone else have something to say about my wife? No one spoke. Many of the French guests looked ashamed now. Some of the village women were crying. The priest, who had been standing quietly during all of this, cleared his throat. Perhaps we should continue with the ceremony. Marcus turned back to Elena. Only if Elena still wants to marry me. I know I should have told you all of this before. I know I made you think I did not care about you. If you want to call off the wedding, I will understand. Elena looked into Marcus's brown eyes. For the first time, she could see real emotion there. She could see that he meant every word he had said. You really chose me? She asked. I really chose you, Marcus said. You think I am remarkable? I think you are the most remarkable woman in the world. Elena felt something inside her chest that she had never felt before. It was warm and bright and made her want to smile and cry at the same time. This was what love felt like. Real love. Then yes, Elena said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I want to marry you. Marcus's smile was so big and bright that it made Elena forget all about the people watching them. The priest continued with the ceremony, but Elena barely heard the words. She was too busy looking at Marcus's face and trying to believe that this was really happening. When the priest said they were husband and wife, Marcus kissed Elena. It was gentle and sweet and perfect. When they broke apart, Elena saw that Marcus had tears in his eyes too. The church erupted in applause. Some people were crying. Others were smiling. Even some of the French guests looked happy now. As Elena and Marcus walked back down the aisle together, Elena felt completely different than she had an hour ago. She was still the same size. She was still wearing the same dress that did not fit quite right. But now she knew that the man beside her thought she was perfect exactly as she was. And for the first time in her life, Elena believed that maybe she really was perfect. Just the way she was. After the wedding ceremony, Elena and Marcus went to their new home. It was a beautiful house on Marcus's vineyard in France. Elena had never seen anything so lovely. The house was made of old stone and had windows that looked out over rows and rows of grapevines. Mountains rose up in the distance, purple and blue in the evening light. But Elena was still confused about everything that had happened at the church. Marcus had said such wonderful things about her. He had defended her in front of everyone. But was it real? Or was he just being kind because people had been so cruel? That first night they sat together in the kitchen. Elena made tea while Marcus watched her. She felt nervous and shy. They were married now, but she still did not really know this man who was her husband. Elena, Marcus said quietly. We need to talk. Elena's heart sank. Maybe now he would tell her the truth. Maybe he would say that he had only defended her because it was the right thing to do. Maybe he would explain that they could live together as friends, but nothing more. I know you must have questions, Marcus continued, about what I said in the church. About why I acted so cold before the wedding. Elena sat down across from him at the small wooden table. I am confused, she admitted. A month ago you barely looked at me. Today you said I was perfect. I do not understand. Marcus ran his hand through his dark hair. I know, I handled everything wrong. I was stupid and scared and I made you think I did not want to marry you. Did you want to marry me? Elena asked. Really? Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. Elena, I have wanted to marry you since the first day I saw you, but I was afraid you would say no if I asked you properly. Elena stared at him. Afraid I would say no? Marcus, look at me. Look at you. You could marry anyone. Why would you want me? Marcus squeezed her hand. Because you are amazing. And I am going to prove it to you. The next morning, Marcus woke Elena up early. Come with me, he said. I want to show you something. They walked through the village near the vineyard. It was a small place, not very different from Elena's home village in Spain. Marcus stopped in front of a little bakery. This bakery has been closed for 2 years, Marcus said. The old woman who owned it died and no one knew how to run it properly. Elena looked through the dusty windows. She could see old ovens and empty shelves inside. I bought it last month, Marcus said, before our wedding. Elena turned to stare at him. You bought a bakery? Why? Marcus smiled. Because I know how much you love making bread and cakes. I thought maybe you would like to open a bakery here. If you want to. Elena felt tears coming to her eyes. You bought this for me? I bought it for us, Marcus said. You could teach me how to make bread. We could work together. Elena could not believe it. Marcus had been planning this before they were even married. He had been thinking about what would make her happy. They spent the morning walking through the empty bakery. Marcus showed Elena how he had already fixed the roof and cleaned the ovens. I did not want to change too much without asking you first, he said. But I thought you might have ideas about how to arrange things. Elena walked around the bakery, imagining how it could look. She could see where the bread would go, where the cakes would be displayed, where customers would sit to drink coffee. It was perfect, Marcus, she said slowly. When did you really decide you wanted to marry me? Marcus leaned against the old counter. Do you remember the day when little Carlos came into your bakery? The boy whose mother was sick? Elena nodded. She remembered Carlos. He was only 6 years old and his mother had been very ill. His father worked hard but did not have much money. Carlos wanted to buy bread for his family, Marcus continued, but he only had a few coins. Not enough for what he needed. Elena remembered that day clearly. I gave him extra bread. And some soup. His family needed food. You gave him enough food for 3 days, Marcus said, and you would not take his money. You told him to save it for his mother's medicine. Elena shrugged. It was the right thing to do. That is when I knew, Marcus said softly. I was sitting at a table in the back of your bakery, pretending to read papers. But I was really watching you. When I saw how kind you were to that little boy, I knew I wanted to spend my life with you. Elena felt her cheeks get warm. You were watching me? Marcus laughed. I was always watching you. Every time I came to your village, I found an excuse to go to your bakery. I told myself I was there to meet with your father about business. But really, I just wanted to see you. Why did you never talk to me? Elena asked. Marcus looked embarrassed. Because I am not good at talking to women. Especially women like you. Women like me. Smart women. Confident women. Women who know what they want and are not afraid to work for it. Marcus shook his head. I spent my whole life learning about wine and business. But no one ever taught me how to talk to someone I care about. Elena walked over to Marcus. She stood close to him, looking up into his brown eyes. You are talking to me now. Now is different, Marcus said. Now you are my wife. Now I have to be brave. They spent the next few days talking. Really talking, for the first time since they met. Elena learned that Marcus was not cold or unfeeling. He was just shy. He had been working since he was very young, helping his father with the vineyard. He did not have many friends. He had never been in love before. I always thought I would marry someone my parents chose, Marcus told her one evening. They were sitting in the garden behind their house watching the sun set over the mountains. Someone who would be good for business. Someone who understood my world. And then, Elena asked, and then I met you and everything changed. You were not from my world, but you made your own world. You made it beautiful and successful and full of kindness. I wanted to be part of that world. Elena leaned against Marcus's shoulder. I thought you were disappointed when you saw me. I thought you wished you could marry someone prettier. Marcus put his arm around her. Elena, you are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Elena pulled back to look at him. Marcus, you do not have to say that. I am not saying it to be nice, Marcus said firmly. I am saying it because it is true. When I look at you, I see someone who makes people happy. I see someone who works hard and cares about others. I see someone strong and capable and good. That is beautiful to me. Elena felt tears in her eyes again. No one ever told me I was beautiful before. Then they were all blind, Marcus said simply. That night, Elena looked at herself in the mirror again. She still saw the same big body, the same round face, but now she tried to see what Marcus saw. She tried to see the kindness in her eyes, the strength in her hands, the determination in her smile. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe beauty was more than just being thin and pretty. Maybe beauty was about who you were inside and how you treated other people. Elena was starting to believe that maybe she really was beautiful after all. The next week, Marcus showed Elena around the vineyard. He taught her about the different types of grapes and how wine was made. Elena was surprised by how much she enjoyed learning about it. She had always thought winemaking was only for men, but Marcus explained everything patiently and answered all her questions. "You have good instincts," Marcus told her when she tasted different wines and could tell which ones were better. "Maybe you could help me improve our recipes." "You would want my help?" Elena asked. "Elena, I want your help with everything," Marcus said. "I want us to be partners in all things. The vineyard, the bakery, our life together. I do not want a wife who just stays home and looks pretty. I want a wife who works beside me and makes everything better." Elena smiled. "I would like that too." As they walked through the vineyard together, Elena realized that Marcus had been telling the truth in the church. He really did think she was remarkable. He really had chosen her not because he had to, but because he wanted to. And slowly, Elena was starting to understand that she really was remarkable. She was smart and talented and kind. She could make a business successful and help people, and create beautiful things with her hands. For the first time in her life, Elena was starting to love herself. And it felt wonderful. News travels fast in small villages. Within a week of Elena and Marcus's wedding, everyone in both the Spanish village and the French village had heard about what happened in the church. People talked about Marcus's passionate defense of his wife. They talked about how he had shouted at his own business partner. They talked about the love in his voice when he spoke about Elena. Some people felt ashamed of how they had treated Elena. In her home village in Spain, women who had whispered cruel things about her for years suddenly felt bad about their words. They remembered all the times Elena had been kind to them, all the beautiful cakes she had made for their children's birthdays, all the times she had given food to families who needed help. Maria Santos, who owned the flower shop next to Elena's family bakery, was one of the first to feel sorry. She had said mean things about Elena for years. She had laughed when other women called Elena fat and unmarriageable. Now she felt sick thinking about it. "I was wrong about Elena," Maria told her husband one evening. "She was always a good person and I was cruel to her. So why were you cruel?" Her husband asked. Maria thought about it. "I think I was jealous. Elena was successful and smart. Her bakery made more money than my flower shop. She knew how to run a business better than I did. But instead of admiring her, I focused on her size. It made me feel better about myself." Maria was not the only one having these thoughts. All over the village, people were looking back at how they had treated Elena and feeling embarrassed. When Elena came back to Spain to visit her family 2 weeks after her wedding, she was surprised by how different things felt. Women who had ignored her before now smiled and waved when they saw her. Children ran up to her in the street to hug her and ask about her new life in France. "Elena," called out Mrs. Garcia, an old woman who had always been cold to her before. "You look so happy." "Marriage agrees with you." Elena was confused. Mrs. Garcia had never been nice to her before. "Thank you," Elena said politely. "I heard about your wedding," Mrs. Garcia continued. "About how your husband defended you. What a romantic man. You are very lucky." Elena realized that people were treating her differently now, not because she had lost weight or changed how she looked, but because they knew that someone loved her. Someone thought she was valuable and worth defending. It made Elena feel good, but it also made her a little sad. Why did it take Marcus's love to make people see that she was worth treating well? Why had they not been kind to her before? At the bakery, Elena's father Roberto was busier than ever. People came in not just to buy bread, but to ask about Elena and her new life. "How is Elena doing in France?" they asked. "Is she happy? Does her husband treat her well?" Roberto was proud to tell them that Elena was very happy. He showed them the letters she had written, describing her new home and the bakery Marcus had bought for her. "Elena is opening her own bakery in France," Roberto told his customers. Her husband is helping her. They are partners in business and in life. People were impressed. They had always known Elena was good at baking, but now they realized she was more than just a good baker. She was a businesswoman. She was building something important with her husband, but not everyone was happy about Elena's success. Isabella Morales, who had gone to school with Elena, was not pleased at all. Isabella was thin and pretty, and she had always been popular with men. She had married young to a handsome man, but her marriage was not very happy. Her husband drank too much and did not treat her well. When Isabella heard about how Marcus had defended Elena at their wedding, she felt angry and jealous. How could fat Elena have found such a devoted husband when Isabella's own handsome husband barely paid attention to her? It is not fair, Isabella complained to her friend Carmen. Elena gets everything. First her family's successful bakery, now a rich husband who treats her like a queen. What does she have that I do not have? Carmen, who was tired of listening to Isabella complain, said, Maybe she has a good heart. Maybe she deserves good things because she is a good person. This made Isabella even angrier. Are you saying I am not a good person? Carmen shrugged. I am saying Elena never said mean things about other people. She never gossiped or tried to make others feel bad. Maybe that is why good things happened to her. But Isabella did not want to hear this. She decided that Elena must have tricked Marcus somehow. Maybe she had lied about how much money her family had. Maybe she had pretended to be something she was not. Isabella could not believe that a man would genuinely love Elena for who she really was. Isabella started spreading new rumors about Elena. She told people that Marcus had only married Elena for her family's money. She said that Elena had probably threatened to call off the wedding if Marcus did not pretend to love her in front of everyone. Think about it, Isabella said to anyone who would listen. A rich, handsome Frenchman falls in love with fat Elena? It does not make sense. There has to be more to the story. Some people believed Isabella's rumors, especially people who had always been jealous of Elena's success, but other people defended Elena. I saw Marcus's face at that wedding, said Father Miguel, the village priest. That was not pretending. That man truly loves his wife. Besides, added Dr. Ruiz, who had known Elena since she was a child, Elena has never lied about anything in her life. She is honest and good. If Marcus loves her, it is because she deserves to be loved. The village was starting to divide into two groups, people who were happy for Elena and had learned to see her differently, and people who could not accept that Elena deserved happiness. Meanwhile, in France, Elena was dealing with similar reactions. Some of the French people who had been at the wedding felt ashamed of how they had acted. They started inviting Elena and Marcus to dinner parties and social events. They wanted to get to know Elena better and make up for their rude behavior, but others, especially some of Marcus's old friends, were not so accepting. They thought Marcus had made a mistake. They whispered that he would eventually get tired of Elena and regret his choice. Claude, the man who had made the cruel comments at the wedding, was the worst. Even though Marcus had kicked him out of the church, Claude continued to spread gossip about the marriage. Marcus is making a huge mistake, Claude told other business owners. That woman is going to ruin his reputation. No one will take him seriously with a wife like that. Some people ignored Claude's words, but others started to worry. They wondered if doing business with Marcus was still a good idea. They worried that Elena might be bad for Marcus's image. When Marcus heard about these rumors, he was furious. But Elena told him not to worry about it. People will always talk, Elena said wisely. The important thing is that we know the truth. We know we love each other and we are building a good life together. Marcus admired Elena's strength. She had dealt with people's cruel words her whole life, and she had learned not to let them destroy her happiness. You are stronger than I am, Marcus told her. I want to fight everyone who says something bad about you. Elena smiled and kissed his cheek. Save your energy for more important things, like helping me plan our bakery. Elena was right to focus on positive things. The bakery was becoming everything she had dreamed of. She and Marcus worked together every day, cleaning and painting and planning. They designed a menu that combined Elena's Spanish recipes with French pastries. They created a space that was warm and welcoming, where people could sit and enjoy coffee with their bread and cakes. But Elena knew that some people would never accept her, no matter how successful she became or how happy she was. She was learning that she could not control what others thought about her. She could only control how she responded to their thoughts, and Elena was choosing to respond with love, kindness, and determination. She was building a beautiful life with Marcus, and no amount of gossip could take that away from her. The people who truly mattered, Marcus, her family, her real friends, knew who Elena really was. They knew she was good and kind and deserving of love. That was enough for Elena. But Isabella was not done causing trouble. She had a plan to prove that Marcus's love for Elena was not real, and her plan involved bringing someone from Marcus's past back into his life. 3 months after Elena and Marcus's wedding, Isabella was still angry about Elena's happiness. She could not stop thinking about how Marcus had defended Elena so passionately. It made Isabella's own marriage look even worse by comparison. Her husband barely spoke to her anymore, and he had never once stood up for her the way Marcus had stood up for Elena. Isabella decided she needed to prove that Marcus's love was not real. She needed to show everyone that Elena had somehow tricked him into marrying her. But how could she do that? Then Isabella remembered something. At Elena's wedding, she had heard some of the French guests talking about a woman named Celeste. They said Celeste had been perfect for Marcus. They said Marcus could have married her instead of Elena. Isabella decided to find out more about this Celeste woman. She asked around and learned that Celeste Dubois lived in Paris. She was beautiful, elegant, and came from a wealthy family. She had known Marcus for years, and many people had expected them to marry. Isabella wrote a letter to Celeste. In the letter, she pretended to be concerned about Marcus. She said that Marcus had married a woman who was not right for him, and that he seemed unhappy. She suggested that Celeste should visit Marcus to see if she could help him. Isabella was very clever in her letter. She did not say anything obviously mean about Elena. Instead, she wrote things like, "Marcus's wife is very different from the women in his social circle, and I worry that Marcus may have made this decision too quickly." Celeste received the letter and was very interested. She had always thought that someday she and Marcus might get married. She had been shocked when she heard that he had married a Spanish baker. It did not make sense to her. Celeste was everything Elena was not. She was tall and thin with blonde hair and blue eyes. She wore expensive clothes and jewelry. She spoke several languages perfectly and had been educated at the best schools in France. She was used to being the most beautiful woman in any room. Celeste decided to visit Marcus and Elena. She told herself she was just being a good friend, checking to make sure Marcus was happy. But really, she wanted to see this woman who had somehow captured Marcus's heart. Celeste wrote to Marcus and said she would be traveling near his vineyard. She asked if she could stay with them for a few days. Marcus, who was always polite, said yes. He did not think there was anything strange about Celeste's visit. When Marcus told Elena that Celeste was coming to stay, Elena felt worried immediately. She had heard Celeste's name mentioned at their wedding. She knew that many people had expected Marcus to marry Celeste instead of her. "Who is Celeste exactly?" Elena asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "She is an old friend," Marcus said. "We have known each other since we were children. Our families have been friends for many years. Were you ever more than friends?" Elena asked quietly. Marcus looked uncomfortable. "We went to some social events together. Our parents thought we might marry someday, but I never felt that way about her." Elena nodded, but inside she felt sick with worry. If Marcus's parents had wanted him to marry Celeste, that meant Celeste was the kind of woman who was right for Marcus's world. The kind of woman Elena would never be. When Celeste arrived at the vineyard, Elena saw immediately why everyone had expected her to marry Marcus. Celeste was stunning. She stepped out of her expensive car wearing a perfect white dress and a hat that looked like it came from Paris. Her makeup was flawless, and her smile was bright and confident. "Marcus," Celeste called out, running to hug him. "You look wonderful. Marriage agrees with you." Elena watched from the doorway as Celeste hugged Marcus. The hug lasted a little too long, Elena thought, and Celeste's hand lingered on Marcus's arm when she pulled away. "Celeste, I would like you to meet my wife, Elena," Marcus said, walking over to take Elena's hand. Celeste's smile became a little less bright when she looked at Elena. Her blue eyes traveled up and down Elena's body, taking in every detail. Elena felt like she was being examined and found lacking. "Elena," Celeste said sweetly, "what a pleasure to meet you. Marcus has told me so much about you." But Elena could tell that Celeste was thinking something very different from what she was saying. Elena could see the surprise in Celeste's eyes and something else, something that looked like pity. That evening, they had dinner together in the dining room. Celeste talked about her life in Paris, about the parties she attended and the important people she knew. She spoke in French most of the time, switching to Spanish only when she remembered that Elena was there. "Do you speak French, Elena?" Celeste asked during dessert. "A little," Elena said. "I studied it in school, but I am not very good at it." "Oh, that is too bad," Celeste said, but she did not sound like she thought it was bad at all. "Marcus and I always spoke French together. It is so much more romantic than Spanish, don't you think?" Elena felt her cheeks burn. She did not know what to say to that. Marcus frowned. "Elena's Spanish is beautiful, and she is learning French very quickly." "Of course," Celeste said quickly. "I did not mean anything by it. Spanish is lovely too." After dinner, Marcus had to take care of some business in his office. Elena offered to show Celeste to the guest room, but Celeste said she wanted to walk in the garden first. "The garden is beautiful," Celeste said as they walked among the flowers. Marcus always loved gardens. "When we were young, we used to walk in his mother's garden for hours talking about our dreams for the future." Elena did not know how to respond to this. Was Celeste trying to make her jealous, or was she just sharing memories? "Marcus seems happy," Celeste continued. "Though I must say I was surprised when I heard about your marriage. You are so different from the women, Marcus, usually. Well, I am sure you know what I mean." Elena felt her stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" Celeste's smile looked innocent, but her eyes were not kind. "Oh, nothing bad. Just that Marcus has always moved in certain social circles, charity galas, wine tastings, dinner parties with diplomats and business leaders, that sort of thing. It must be overwhelming for you coming from such a different background." Elena felt like Celeste was trying to make her feel small and out of place. "I am learning," Elena said quietly. "Of course you are," Celeste said. "Though I imagine it must be difficult. These social events can be so intimidating when you do not know the right people or the right things to say. And the clothes. They are so expensive. I am sure Marcus does not expect you to fit in right away." Elena felt tears starting to come to her eyes. Celeste was being cruel, but in a way that sounded like she was being helpful and kind. It was worse than the obvious cruelty Elena had faced at her wedding. The next day, Celeste suggested that they all go to lunch at a fancy restaurant in the nearby town. "There is a wonderful place I know," she said. "Very elegant. I think you would enjoy it, Elena." At the restaurant, Elena felt completely out of place. All the other women were dressed in expensive clothes and spoke in quiet, refined voices. Elena's dress, which had seemed nice at home, now looked plain and cheap. Celeste ordered wine and spoke knowledgeably about the different types. She discussed art and politics with Marcus. She mentioned people they both knew from Paris and asked about mutual friends. Elena sat quietly, feeling more and more invisible. She did not know anything about the topics they were discussing. She had never been to Paris or met any of these important people. She felt like a child sitting at a table of adults. "Elena," Celeste said suddenly, turning to her with that false, sweet smile. "You are so quiet. Are you feeling all right?" "I am fine," Elena said, but her voice was barely above a whisper. "You know," Celeste continued, "I was just thinking how lucky you are to have found Marcus. Most men in his position would never consider marrying someone from such a humble background. It shows what a kind, generous heart Marcus has." Marcus's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "Celeste," he said sharply. "What?" Celeste asked, looking innocent. "I am complimenting Elena. I think it is wonderful that Marcus was able to look beyond the usual expectations and find love in such an unexpected place." Elena felt like she was going to be sick. Celeste was making it sound like Marcus had done Elena a huge favor by marrying her, like Elena was some kind of charity case that Marcus had taken pity on. "I think we should go home," Marcus said, standing up abruptly. "But we have not finished our lunch," Celeste protested. "I have finished," Marcus said coldly. On the drive home, Elena stared out the window and tried not to cry. Maybe Celeste was right. Maybe Marcus had married her out of kindness, not love. Maybe he was starting to realize that Elena could never fit into his world. That night, after Celeste had gone to bed, Elena sat in their bedroom and finally let herself cry. She felt stupid and plain and completely out of place. She wondered if Marcus was regretting his choice to marry her. Marcus found her there, tears streaming down her face. "Elena," he said, sitting beside her on the bed. What is wrong? Elena looked at her husband. He was so handsome and sophisticated. He deserved someone like Celeste, someone who could be the perfect wife for a man in his position. Maybe you married the wrong person, Elena whispered. Marcus stared at Elena in shock. What did you say? Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Maybe you married the wrong person. Maybe you should have married someone like Celeste. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest, but not at Elena, at himself, for not seeing what was happening, at Celeste for making his wife feel this way. Elena, look at me, Marcus said, taking her hands in his. Why would you say such a thing? Elena pulled her hands away. Because it is true. Celeste is perfect for you. She is beautiful and elegant and sophisticated. She knows about wine and art and all the important people you know. She can go to fancy restaurants and dinner parties and fit in perfectly. And you think I care about those things? Marcus asked. You should care about them, Elena said, more tears falling down her cheeks. You are an important man, Marcus. You deserve a wife who can help your business and your reputation, not someone who embarrasses you. Marcus stood up and began pacing around the room. Elena, you have never embarrassed me. Not once. What about today at lunch? I sat there like a stupid girl who did not understand anything. Celeste must have thought you were crazy for marrying me. Marcus stopped pacing and turned to face Elena. I do not care what Celeste thinks. I care what you think. And right now it sounds like you think very badly of yourself. Elena looked down at her hands. Celeste said that most men in your position would never marry someone like me. She said it showed how kind and generous you are. Marcus felt his anger explode. She said what? She was being nice about it, Elena said quickly. She was not trying to be cruel. Elena, Marcus said, his voice shaking with rage. Celeste was being very cruel. And very smart about it. She was trying to make you feel exactly the way you feel right now. Elena looked up at Marcus in surprise. What do you mean? Marcus sat back down on the bed. Celeste came here for a reason. Not to visit an old friend. She came here to try to break up our marriage. Elena stared at him. That is not true. She said she was worried about you. Elena, think about it. Why would Celeste suddenly decide to visit after months of not speaking to me? Why would she say things designed to make you feel bad about yourself? Why would she constantly talk about our past and try to exclude you from conversations? Elena thought about the past 2 days. About how Celeste had spoken French most of the time. About how she had mentioned all the important people Elena did not know. About how she had made Elena feel small and out of place. You really think she was doing it on purpose? Elena asked. I know she was, Marcus said firmly, and I should have stopped it immediately. I should have protected you better. Marcus stood up again. Elena, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Everything Celeste said about you was wrong. Everything she said about us was wrong. Elena looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. You are not the wrong person for me, Marcus continued. You are the only person for me. You are not embarrassing or stupid or out of place. You are kind and intelligent and beautiful. But I do not know about wine and art and fancy parties, Elena protested. So what? Marcus said. Do you think those things make someone a good person? Do you think knowing which fork to use at dinner makes someone worth loving? Elena was quiet. Elena, I have been to 1,000 fancy parties. I have met hundreds of sophisticated, educated, elegant women. And you know what? Most of them were boring. Most of them only cared about themselves and their clothes and their social status. Marcus knelt down in front of Elena so he could look directly into her eyes. You know what you care about? You care about making beautiful food that brings people joy. You care about taking care of your family. You care about being kind to everyone you meet, whether they are rich or poor. You work hard and you are honest and you make everything around you better. Elena felt fresh tears coming, but these were different tears. That is what I fell in love with, Marcus said softly. Not your knowledge of French wine or your ability to make small talk at parties. I fell in love with your heart. Elena reached out and touched Marcus's face. You really mean that? I really mean that. And tomorrow morning I'm going to make sure Celeste understands that. Elena grabbed Marcus's hand. What are you going to do? I am going to tell her exactly what I think of her behavior. And then I'm going to ask her to leave. The next morning, Celeste came down to breakfast wearing another beautiful dress. She smiled brightly at Marcus and Elena as if nothing had happened. Good morning, she said cheerfully. What a lovely day. I thought perhaps we could visit that art gallery in town. Elena, you would enjoy seeing some real French paintings. Marcus set down his coffee cup very carefully. Celeste, we need to talk. Something in Marcus's voice made Celeste's smile fade a little. Of course. What about? About why you are really here, Marcus said calmly. Celeste laughed, but it sounded forced. What do you mean? I told you I was traveling in the area and wanted to see how you were doing. No, Marcus said. You came here to try to convince my wife that she is not good enough for me. Celeste's face went white. Marcus, I would never. You would and you did, Marcus interrupted. Yesterday at lunch, you told Elena that most men in my position would never marry someone from her background. You said it showed how kind and generous I am, as if marrying Elena was some sort of charity work. Celeste looked around nervously. I think you misunderstood. I did not misunderstand anything, Marcus said, his voice getting louder. You have spent 2 days trying to make Elena feel inferior. You spoke French to exclude her. You talked about people and places she does not know to make her feel ignorant. You complimented her in ways that were actually insults. Elena watched in amazement as Marcus defended her again. Just like he had at their wedding, Marcus. You are being ridiculous, Celeste said, trying to sound calm. I was just trying to help Elena understand what she needs to learn to fit into your world. My world? Marcus stood up, his face red with anger. Celeste, my world is Elena. My world is this vineyard and our bakery and the life we are building together. Your world of snobbish parties and fake friendships and judging people by their clothes and their accents, that is not my world anymore. Celeste looked shocked. But Marcus, we have so much history together. We understand each other. We come from the same background. We have nothing together, Marcus said firmly. We never did. You thought we did because our parents are friends and because we went to the same parties. But I never loved you, Celeste. I never even liked you very much. Celeste's mouth fell open. You want to know why? Marcus continued. Because you are exactly the kind of person who would come here and try to hurt my wife. You are selfish and cruel, and you think you are better than other people because you were born rich. Marcus walked over to Elena and put his arm around her shoulders. Elena is worth 100 of you, he said to Celeste. She is kinder, smarter, more talented, and more beautiful than you will ever be. And if you cannot see that, then you are not welcome in my home. Celeste stood up, her face red with embarrassment and anger. You will regret this, Marcus. When you get tired of playing house with your little baker, you will remember what you gave up. Get out, Marcus said quietly. What? Get out of my house now and do not come back. Celeste looked like she could not believe what was happening. She had probably expected Marcus to realize his mistake and choose her over Elena. Instead, he was throwing her out. Fine, Celeste said, trying to sound dignified. But when this all falls apart, do not come crying to me. I will not, Marcus said simply. After Celeste left, Elena and Marcus sat together in their garden. Elena felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. I am sorry, Marcus said. I should have seen what she was doing immediately. I should have protected you better. Elena leaned against Marcus's shoulder. You protected me perfectly. You chose me over her. Again. Marcus kissed the top of Elena's head. I will always choose you, Elena, every time. For the rest of my life, Elena smiled. Even when I do not know which fork to use at fancy dinners. Marcus laughed. Especially then. As they sat together watching the sun set over their vineyard, Elena felt completely secure in Marcus's love for the first time. She knew now that no amount of outside pressure could shake what they had built together. She was Marcus's choice, not his compromise, not his charity case, not his business arrangement. His choice, and that made all the difference in the world. 6 months after Celeste's visit, Elena stood in her new bakery and smiled. The morning sun came through the clean windows and lit up the fresh bread on the shelves. The smell of coffee and pastries filled the air. Customers sat at small tables talking and laughing while they ate Elena's food. The bakery had become everything Elena had dreamed of and more. She had combined her Spanish recipes with French techniques that Marcus had helped her learn. Their specialty was wine bread, made with grapes from Marcus's vineyard. People came from 3 villages away just to buy it. But the bakery was more than just a successful business. It had become the heart of their community. Elena knew every customer's name. She remembered what they liked to eat and how they took their coffee. She gave free cookies to children and extra soup to elderly people who lived alone. "Elena," called out Mrs. Dubois, an old French woman who came in every morning. "Do you have any of that wonderful cinnamon bread today?" "Of course," Elena said, wrapping up a warm loaf. "I made it fresh this morning." Mrs. Dubois had been cold to Elena when she first moved to France. Like many people, she had been suspicious of the Spanish woman who had married their Marcus. But Elena's kindness and delicious food had won her over completely. "You know," Mrs. Dubois said quietly, "I owe you an apology. When you first came here, I thought Marcus had made a mistake. I thought you were not right for him." Elena smiled. "And now? Now I see that you are the best thing that ever happened to this village." And to Marcus, Elena felt warm inside. Comments like this had become common over the past months. People who had once doubted her marriage now saw how happy she and Marcus were together. Marcus came into the bakery carrying a basket of fresh grapes from the vineyard. He kissed Elena's cheek and started arranging the grapes in a display near the window. "How is business today?" he asked. "Very good," Elena said. "We sold out of the wine bread again." And Mrs. Laurent ordered 6 cakes for her daughter's wedding. Marcus grinned. "Soon we will need to hire more help." Elena and Marcus had become true partners in every way. Marcus helped in the bakery every morning before going to work in the vineyard. Elena had learned about winemaking and now helped Marcus plan which grapes to grow and when to harvest them. Their business partnership had made both the bakery and the vineyard more successful than either had been before. Elena's food brought customers who then bought Marcus's wine. Marcus's wine attracted people who then discovered Elena's amazing bread and cakes. But more importantly, their personal partnership had grown stronger every day. They talked about everything. They laughed together. They supported each other through hard days and celebrated together during good ones. "Elena," Marcus said, coming over to put his arms around her waist, "I have some news." "What kind of news?" "The mayor wants to give us an award for best new business in the region." Elena's eyes widened. "Really? Really? There will be a ceremony next month. All the important people from the surrounding towns will be there." Elena felt a familiar flutter of nervousness. "All the important people?" Marcus saw the worry in her eyes and kissed her forehead. "Yes, and they are all going to see how amazing my wife is." Elena was still learning not to be afraid of social situations. With Marcus's help and her own growing confidence, she was getting better at believing in herself. But sometimes the old fears still came back. "What if I say something wrong? What if I embarrass you?" "Elena," Marcus said firmly, "you could never embarrass me. You are intelligent and kind and successful. You have nothing to be ashamed of." Marcus was right. Elena had changed a lot in the months since their wedding. Not physically. She was still the same size she had always been. But inside she was different. She stood taller. She spoke with more confidence. She looked people in the eye when she talked to them. The biggest change was that Elena had stopped waiting for other people to tell her she was valuable. She knew her own worth now. She knew she was smart and talented and deserving of love. A week before the award ceremony, Elena got an unexpected visitor. Isabella, her old schoolmate from Spain, came to the bakery. Elena had not seen Isabella since before her wedding. She was surprised to see her former classmate standing nervously in the doorway of the bakery. "Isabella," Elena said, "what are you doing here?" Isabella looked around the beautiful bakery, taking in the busy customers and the displays of delicious food. "I came to see you." To apologize, Elena was shocked. "Apologize for what?" Isabella's face was red with shame. "For the things I said about you. For the rumors I spread, for writing to Celeste." Elena stared at her. "You wrote to Celeste?" Isabella nodded miserably. "I was jealous of you. I could not stand that you had found such happiness when my own marriage was so miserable. So I contacted Celeste and told her that Marcus seemed unhappy. I thought maybe she could break up your marriage." Elena felt a flash of anger, but then she looked at Isabella's miserable face and felt sorry for her instead. "Why are you telling me this now?" Elena asked. "Because I was wrong," Isabella said, tears in her eyes. "Because my husband left me last month and I realized that my marriage failed because I was bitter and jealous and mean. Not because you were happy." Isabella looked around the bakery again. "Look at what you have built here. Look how happy you are. You deserve all of this, Elena, you always did, and I was too jealous to see it." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she went behind the counter and wrapped up some pastries. "Here," she said, handing the package to Isabella. For your trip home. Isabella stared at the package. You are giving me food? After what I did to you? You made a mistake, Elena said simply. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is that you are sorry and that you want to be better. Isabella started crying. I do not deserve your kindness. Everyone deserves kindness, Elena said. That is what I believe. Isabella hugged Elena and left the bakery. Elena never saw her again. But she heard later that Isabella had moved to a new town and started over. Elena hoped she had found happiness. The night of the award ceremony, Elena put on her best dress and looked at herself in the mirror. She saw a confident woman looking back at her. A successful businesswoman, a beloved wife, a valued member of her community. The ceremony was held in the town hall. When Elena and Marcus arrived, they were greeted warmly by the mayor and other local business owners. Elena was surprised by how comfortable she felt talking to these important people. She found that she had plenty to say about running a business and serving customers. Elena, said the mayor's wife, your bakery has become the heart of our community. Everyone talks about how welcome you make them feel. Elena smiled. That is what I wanted. A place where everyone feels at home. When their names were called to receive the award, Elena and Marcus walked up to the stage together. The crowd applauded loudly. Elena saw many familiar faces in the audience, customers from the bakery, workers from the vineyard, neighbors who had become friends. Marcus spoke first, thanking everyone for supporting their businesses. Then he took Elena's hand. But I want everyone to know, Marcus said into the microphone, that this success would not have been possible without my partner in every way. My wife, Elena. She is the heart and soul of everything we do. The crowd applauded again, and Elena felt tears of happiness in her eyes. When it was Elena's turn to speak, she looked out at all the faces and felt no fear at all. When I first came to France, Elena said, I was afraid that I would not fit in. I was afraid that I was not good enough for this community. But you have all shown me that home is not about where you come from or what you look like. Home is about the people who welcome you and support you and become your family. The crowd gave Elena a standing ovation. Marcus squeezed her hand and smiled at her with so much love that Elena thought her heart might burst with happiness. After the ceremony, people came up to congratulate them. Elena found herself surrounded by friends, real friends who valued her for who she was. Elena, said Dr. Martin, who had become a regular customer at the bakery. My wife and I were just saying how lucky our town is to have you and Marcus. You have brought so much joy to our community. As the evening went on, Elena realized something wonderful. She was not just Marcus's wife anymore, or just the new baker in town. She had become Elena, a person in her own right, respected and loved for her own accomplishments. Later that night, as Elena and Marcus drove home through the dark countryside, Elena thought about how much her life had changed. A year ago, she had been the fat girl that everyone pitied, the unmarried daughter that people whispered about, the woman who believed she would never find love. Now she was a successful businesswoman, a beloved community member, a woman who knew her own worth and never doubted that she deserved happiness. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked, noticing Elena's quiet smile. I am thinking about that day in the church, Elena said. When you shouted at everyone to back off, Marcus laughed. I was so angry. I could not stand listening to them talk about you that way. That was the moment everything changed for me, Elena said. Not just because you defended me, but because you helped me see myself the way you see me. Marcus reached over and took Elena's hand. And how do I see you? As someone worth defending, someone worth choosing, someone worth loving,